Hot Mike with Dom Izzo.
Really? Really, Dom?
No. I like what Dom's doing.
Okay.
Dom Izzo.
Jeez, come on, Dom. What do you think I am, a magician?
Yeah, I'm fired up, Dom. What else could I say?
Absolutely. It was great to get on the field, and then Dom came up to me, and I'm trying to walk away from me. I just wanted to enjoy myself out there.
Hot Mike.
Great job.
There's got to be some kind of intelligent question about something.
Coach Dom Izzo, WDAY in Fargo, North Dakota.
Can you give me a layup or something?
Hot Mike. Presented by Northwestern Mutual.
That program is second to none.
On the networks of WDAY.
You know, if it's not about sports, I find it very hard to concentrate.
Here's Dom Izzo.
And we start our show with why we show Wyoming Air Force 2023 video. For our first guest, he's probably going to go into Hive seeing this. But North Dakota State football will be playing in Colorado Springs in 2026. One Tim Polasek was the OC. That was a heck of a play, by the way, there in that football game, huh?
I actually really enjoyed that game. We were really efficient on offense.
Yeah.
And there was 1 hour and a half period of time where I didn't call a play. Of actual
really
time, yeah, in between halftime and the end of second quarter. That's just what they do. They just melt it.
Holy cow, that's Rob. The head football coach is here in studio as the acclaimed football schedule is out for the Bison in 2026. I got to see in Sioux Falls this weekend. How many times did you get asked about when's the football schedule coming out?
Well, it was good. It was good to be down there and support the basketball team's number one, but probably upwards 200 to 300 times. The different locations, a lunch somewhere,
yes,
and then a dinner somewhere, and then being in the lobby and at the game. So it was pretty good to feel the excitement level that it was going to get released on Monday.
So just seeing that video and people, I think, I've been trying to hammer this, Tim, for the last month. They're fixated on the destinations, which is fine. The competition level is a whole other thing. Air Force just comes right to mind because I know you and I have talked about even long before the Mountain West was a possibility. That was always a game that was a grind when you were at Wyoming.
Oh yeah, so many matchups for us when we were at Wyoming. Like it will be for us, I think, moving into this league, especially first 3, 4, 5 years, getting a feel for it. It's one thing to be 9-14 in the FBS games or whatever we are, and then not know necessarily who we have next and those kind of things. But when you're in a competitive conference, in week in and week out, number one, depth will become, a question. Are you healthy? Are you not healthy? Those things sway games. But then just being able to consistently perform in big moments, third downs and gold zone, it's going to be competitive. I think that's the number one thing I would be excited about if I was a fan, is just constantly not knowing. Got to show up to the park, and you got to show up ready to go.
How much have you had input in this in terms of the non-conference, or is this all with Matt and Todd doing that?
The job they did, I hope, we yin and yang it, right? And, have good relationships across the board with our administration. This was done pretty proficiently in a really short time. For me to say I'm surprised, I don't think I'd go that far, but for it to come out the way it did, and for the moving parts and the amount of people that wanted to drop off the schedule and not maintain a game, and the ability for our conference to work with us to make it work for North Dakota State is just phenomenal.
Well, football scheduling, better than anybody, is done college-wise, 5, 6, 7 years out in advance, not 6 months.
No, in most cases, yeah, right? You're 2, 3, 4 years out. I don't have. We talked about that kind of going all the way back to the interview process. I maybe have gotten 1 to 3 questions overall about scheduling. I really trust Matt and Todd in what they do. And then on top of it, it's a little bit, this is exciting too, moving up to FBS because of the grind to get people to come to here. I don't know the exact dollar figures that it's taken to get people to come here the last 3 or 4 years, but I can't imagine that's been cheap.
Nope. No. There's been, I know a few opponents, it's high 270. This is FCS dollars, 275 to 300, and that's only going to go up now, right, with the FBS attachment to your name.
Well, I think so, and I think there's obviously revenue to be gained there.
Yes.
Instead of always kicking it out, paying for people's travel, paying for their hotels, their meals with people. Just a lot of FCS schools reluctant to come up here and play.
Correct. Should we look at it? You want to look at the schedule? Let's go through it. So, obviously, it'll begin with a Week 0 game against Jacksonville State, which there are fond memories. I know for Bison fans there, you were the offensive coordinator in the national championship game. That was Carson Wentz's first game back after the broken hand to play against Jacksonville State.
Yeah, and I've been connected to a coach there for a while, Kelvin Sigler. I'm not sure if he's still there or not, but I think speed and size. Yeah. And, obviously skill level will be high, and so that's a great opponent.
That's just going to be amped up. First game of the year already, but the first FBS game, I imagine it's going to be at night. That's going to be some theatrics there, I imagine.
First FBS game in a new era. I mean, naturally, I'm counting on a really electric dome.
After that's another home game with Fordham. That's the FCS opponent out of the Patriot League that's going to be coming here on September 5th over Labor Day weekend for game number 2.
Yeah, don't know a lot about Fordham right now. Just over the years, though, you do cross paths recruiting-wise with high-level academic kids that are smart and tough. I did practice there when we played in the Pinstripe Bowl.
Is that right?
For 2017.
Out in the Bronx? Okay.
Yeah, and it actually was a snowy, icy day because Pinstripe Bowl is right around Christmas time. And so to see, I think Lombardi's locker.
That's his alma mater. Yeah.
Shrined out. That was pretty cool.
Then you just ease into the Mountain West, so the first road game is at Air Force, which you're going to have to play them regardless. Yep. But how do you feel that's game number 1 to start?
Well, it's exciting, and it's going to be a great challenge for our guys. And then we got to keep everything in perspective. I do think this conference, my general feeling when I was there is the teams that take care of home, right, and go on the road and play tough. This is no longer like, okay, you run the table and go 13-0, and everybody assumes that. Like, we're going to have to go into some environments and play really well. I know defensively, obviously, you're on edge a little bit because they're just one misfit, always away from a big play. And then the counterpunch to that, though, and we're already getting into like the press conference, right? The counterpunch is how efficient and clean can you be offensively? Yeah. Do you have a chance to potentially change them if you can make them play from behind?
They are traditional triple option, correct? What Air Force
is? Yeah, they've been, you know what? They opened it up and were throwing it a little bit a couple years ago, I know. They've been back and forth on some more toss sweep stuff for a moment when we were there. I can remember 23, it was a little bit of perimeter stuff, and they weren't afraid to throw it. But, yeah, you're still going to get a lot of fullback dive, fullback zone, fullback midline, inside veer, those types of things.
I know Wyoming is there any elevation, with Colorado Springs, or no? That's not really.
Yeah, I mean,
is there?
I think 4 or 5 of our opponents are above 4,800. I want to say New Mexico is in that 4,000 range. Colorado, obviously, when we played there, was in the 6,000. Yep. I think Air Force is slightly below them. Air Force is the second highest elevation team, I think, in the country. Wyoming being 7,200.
Then after that, another road game out to California to play Sacramento State, who's obviously in the same boat with you guys of moving up to FBS. That seemed like a logical fit there.
Yeah, they were looking. We were looking. Yeah. That game is exciting just based on the amount of conversation around both schools moving up. And so to be paired with somebody that's making the transition the same time you are, it kind of seems like a fair fight.
The bye stayed in the same time. Is that a big deal? Like the bye is in the same week than it was going to be in the original schedule as well?
No, not at all.
Okay.
It doesn't dictate. It won't dictate any of our training and things this year. I feel like our football team, we addressed that a little bit last year with the youth, and then we're addressing it again this year. So we're going to be able to put a pretty collaborative effort to focus on our first 3 opponents. With fall camp, and even a little bit in spring will be some introduction stuff.
Okay. Then the bulk of the Mountain West schedule starts. Wyoming on homecoming, which will be amped. I imagine that's going to be a fun game there.
Yeah, it sure feels like. I mean, even Tom Berman, an athletic director who I have a relationship with, seems like he'd be open to a rivalry.
Sounds like it, yeah.
Yeah, and I know Northern Illinois. I know some people down there, and we've kind of poked around. And I did talk to Coach Hammock before he left. And there might be some interest there. So we'll see if this is a natural thing or if the 2 schools collaborate and put something together.
I think there's a lot of fans that have October 10th now circled because that's a game in Las Vegas that you're going to have a sizable amount of people go to Las Vegas on that date, I imagine.
Yeah, those are the 2 that you hear the most about are Las Vegas and Hawaii. But I I hope our fans, we've traveled well all the time.
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting, right? Like 4,000 people make the football trips, and New Mexico is a really good football team, and they're averaging about 18 or 19,000 fans now. That wasn't the case when I was in the Mountain West. Jason Eck's done such a good job. But the Las Vegas experience is cool because of the stadium that you play in.
Because that's at the Raiders Stadium, obviously, the Allegiant Stadium.
They bring the grass field off. They have a system, and then they bring the college field on. And so we'll have to be really aware of the numbers and landmarks on the field, if I remember that correctly, as just being a NFL field where we'll have to adjust.
So let's dive a little bit later here. So the Hawaii game, you have a bye before that. Could you schedule that out? How did that work in terms of the Hawaii game and the bye before that game?
John Sullivan and those guys, I just know they're willing to help and work with people that have Hawaii on their schedule, whether it's a bye after or it's a bye before. For us, we don't work with our kids on Sundays. They come in, they get some treatment. They do watch tape on their own because they're eager, but we don't have that that's their off day. And so that's one benefit you have with the game following Hawaii. The bye before Hawaii gives you a little more flexibility on the front end to get there earlier potentially and get your legs acclimated, the jet lag and those kind of things. So that's exciting. I'm not sure which one I prefer. Yeah. When I did interview, off just in Laramie for the job here, we just had a conversation. Yeah, you normally want to buy after that game or before it.
I remember Craig telling me, did you guys go out the whole week? Did you do that one when you were out there?
No, I only was part of getting there on Thursday. Okay. Pretty much a non-football day. And then you just increase Friday a little bit football-wise.
Have you heard of teams spending the whole week out there?
You know what? I don't know if this is rumors or stories or legends, but my understanding is that there's been some people that try to get them for the Thanksgiving Day game, and then we'll stay a couple days after while they're waiting for their bowl announcements and things like that. So I think the big thing for the football team, and this won't be a surprise to the audience, but we're going to play a game. This is not this is not a vacation for the football team.
The final game is San Jose State, so you're going to play everybody. Yeah, which I think that's interesting as well. You're going to get a look at all 9 teams in the league this season, one way or the other.
Yeah, and I'm not in the loop on this at all, but my guess is that San Jose State and the league really worked with us on that one. Because if you correct me if I'm wrong, did San Jose State have Jacksonville State?
They did.
So
correct.
They let them go for us.
Yep.
And then agreed to play another home game, which makes sense for all parties. So that was pretty cool.
So that's it. So now it's finally put to bed, and now we're going to talk about here in a little bit, you actually are going to be on the field here in the not too distant future. That you can actually start working with the football team now.
It's funny. My wife asked me. She's like, "Okay, you're going into work. It's spring break, and I like working during spring break. I've been busy with some other things the last 2 or 3 weeks, and it feels a lot like my first year on the job. Like, okay, we're talking about the new era. We're talking about the plans. We're talking about we got to get over this, that we're going into this new thing. Now it's spring ball, and okay, what can we do to ensure a great summer that leads into a great fall camp? And how do we move this club forward? We got to start focusing on the football aspect of this.
How much have you seen? I know the video went out last week, Tim, of Ryan Babbitt's cleaned. We showed it here on the show. How much interaction can you even have with the guys right now in terms of being there for workouts or anything like that?
Well, we have 8 hours a week. We get, whether it's strength and conditioning, certain football activities, you can't do 11 on 11. You can't do those kind of things and be a coach and be out there. All the 7 on 7 and any kind of team football activities is done by the players on their own, which Nate Hayes has done a great job executing our throwing and that kind of stuff. We have about 15 to 20 minutes Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, skills and drills football-wise. Yep. We do some academic and some leadership things on Wednesday mornings, but we have to stay in the parameters of 8 hours total. And so now we definitely shift gears away from the strength and conditioning, the speed and agility work to where it's more football-specific.
From your travels here over the last little bit, basically the last month since the announcement's been made, what's the reaction been from your colleagues about this happening, and what's the feedback you've received?
Yeah, a lot of guys, well, now you're an FBS head coach. I never really put that much thought into that. I mean, North Dakota State's a big deal to be the head football coach, and that was the primary reason Jill and I didn't look at anything. Yeah. But we knew that this carrot was out there, and again, I wanted to be the person that was out in front, to take these steps with these guys, the players and the administration, and start to build this thing out.
I want to say you hinted at it when we talked about it in December.
It was going to be, I for whatever reason, I kind of thought it was going to be one of those tough off seasons. Our team had played so well.
Yep.
The guys had answered the bell. And unfortunately, we lost to Illinois State, and were able to shut down all the conversations about 10 days prior to that game. But, just the overall impact has been a lot of quality control guys reaching out for job opportunities, which we're not going to add 15 quality control guys.
I was going to ask that because I have people asking me, okay, or is the staff going to get bigger? Because FBS staffs are unwieldy in my mind.
Yeah.
You have a ton of guys on the sidelines now.
Well, I think, it was interesting. I had a really good conversation with Dave Jones yesterday, a good supporter, a good fan. And I had to call him on a separate issue. But we got to remember, we're not jumping into the Big Ten.
Yeah.
So there's a gradual progression to this. I am not one of the guys that believe all of a sudden your coaching staff should have 22 guys on it. So we're not going to fundamentally or, go out there and fundraise for 10 new coaches. We have to add a piece in our creative area. As far as in-house football creative, we have to eventually add like a GM position, and we're going to work through that the right way and find the right guy that can handle that stuff.
Because you've been doing that, right?
I've been doing a lot of it along with Derek Luke, and has been helping me. So on the forefront right now would be another high-level evaluation type guy in the recruiting department, or a guy that could transition to ops and oversee recruiting. So we've got some options there. So operations, the creative content in-house. By February, I would say these are targets for these guys. And then by July 1st, most certainly another recruiting person.
Let me go back on the schedule because you mentioned Big Ten. That people wonder, okay, what Power 4 opponent, and I know this is out of your jurisdiction, is that something, probably it's a couple years off, I'd imagine, just knowing how their schedules work of you getting a chance to play one of those schools.
Yeah, yes and no. There's a lot of change, though. There's people that who potentially would drop an FCS team if they have one. I do think it just becomes, it's not easier. I don't want to downplay the ease of it, but your FBS now, people play.
There are more doors open now.
I'll give you an example. Iowa for years, Northwestern for years, just line up and play against Northern Illinois. And did you really want to do that? I mean, when we beat Kansas State on that Friday night. North Dakota State did. I was watching that game in a hotel with my family. Because the next day, we beat Iowa when I was at Northern Illinois. So those matchups are they're just more open. They need non-league games, too, that aren't necessarily, the SEC.
Another Power 4 game.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
Yep.
On the recruiting deal, I want to do this before we go to commercial, because I've had this asked of me as well. How does it change? The guys you're looking at, are there more people calling you and say, hey, now I'm interested now that you're an FBS team? Has that happened?
Well, I think the further away you are from the region, things potentially change.
Okay.
You're looking at a higher level skill kid, most certainly. You're gonna be in the fight with those kind of things based on those letters, FBS. I think regionally, it's interesting too. Me and Mike had a conversation about this Sunday night. And I just said, regionally, no, we just start with the best of the best.
Yep.
And you kind of just work through it, and then as guys get this or that or cancel a visit because they're doing another visit. You just keep working through it. So regionally, not a whole lot will change, but I do think we have to redesignate our minimals at every position. We still want to be a developmental football team, and I want the fans to know that. They can embrace that. We want to be a developmental operation that builds from the bottom up. But maybe at one point, 6'4.5", 235 was good enough. Maybe now it needs to be 245, 250. And so we have to do a really good job with some of our recruiting stuff as far as taking a look. Can they really get there by their sophomore year, no longer their junior year?
The timetable just moves up.
That's nothing to do with FBS.
Right.
That's more to do with the portal and the era of college football. We need guys faster.
We need them to play.
That's
got to be on the field. Let's break. We come back. We'll chat. Pro Day is next week. NFL's coming back to town. We'll chat about your quarterback and wide receiver blowing up. We'll do that. Hot Mike just getting started. Tim Polasek in studio with us. We're back right after this. Studio with us. I mentioned we got Bison Pro Day coming up next week. The NFL will be back. You actually were texting me that your phone was heating up over the last little bit here.
Yeah, I think now what happens after the combine and these personal interviews and on-campus things start to happen.
Yeah.
I got about 3 calls yesterday, and I promised my wife I wasn't going to do anything but engage with her, and I had to take those calls, but, happily to do that. Yeah, Bryce and Cole, most certainly, and then a couple teams reaching out on Truman.
Oh, okay.
Just the lack of fullbacks in college football, and Truman's been working hard, and those two guys are doing a great job. So it's been good to deliver information.
What did you see? Bryce ran 4.34. I had Mekhi Collins on at halftime of the Bison basketball game last week. I said, hey, what do you think? And this is before Bryce did it. What do you think he's going to run? He said 4.38, and obviously Bryce ran faster than that. So that obviously grabs eyes, I'm assuming, with just that number.
I think going into the combine, there were some questions of why he didn't participate in the All-Star game. And I had talked to Bryce, and I said, hey, just give me some background on this so I can talk to these scouts and GMs and stuff like that. And Bryce just said he wanted to be fully healthy. He said, Coach, I'm going to go fast. And to me, I was like 4.41, 4.42, and then to go as low as he did, pretty remarkable. But if you look at his athleticism score, and some of those analytic things are real, and the comparisons, number 4 out of 4,000 receivers of all time. And so it's just another case in point of what Jim Kramer and Ryan Napoli do here, and then our guys' intent when they go train.
What did you see of what Cole did?
Yeah, I want to get a copy of all the throws and all those things. But, from my understanding, the interview process went really well for him, and that's the thing behind the scenes. Yep. I heard him mention, he is fairly healthy in comparison to a lot of people. And then his running and jumping was on par with what I thought he would do. I didn't know how the 40 would go because we just don't test 40s very often, but the jumping was spot on to what I predicted.
He said that when I talked to him when we were in Nashville for the Peyton, said, I can't wait for the vertical. The vertical's one, and obviously he aced that one.
Yeah, I've seen him go 40 before, so for him to increase to, 41 and
He does know he's not jumping over guys in the NFL, though, right? He's not going to be doing that.
I hope so. Or if he plays in a Wildcat package, he might be willing to do whatever it takes to get paid.
Get on the field, right?
That's
whatever
right.
you got to do. How much of their stocks increased then, just over from what happened 2 weeks ago in Indianapolis to where we're at now? It's gone up,
I think
right?
I think with any FCS kid, the combine's critical. Number one, to go down there and perform with some anxiety and knowing that certain things are on the line, right? Like moving up from being a fourth round pick to number 2. I take Gray Zabel and Carson Wentz, their process, they probably started the whole thing in about the same area, 50th, 55 overall. Yep. And as they move through the interviews, all of a sudden you're starting to get calls like, hey, this guy was a top 1 or 2 interview. Really sharp and those things. So everything matters leading up. And if you can stay on an upward trajectory, people start getting confidence.
How much does that change now that not necessarily you guys are going to be unknown because you are known in the draft process, but just that now with FBS, there's just going to be there's going to be more games, there's more tape available, all of that going in the process going forward, right?
I think of defensive backs and safeties. Their film will be valued more. I mean, we're gonna see Bryce Lance probably 4 to 5 times a year now from our opponents. When you think about that.
Skill guys in that league.
The skill guys at that level are just that much better, and you can go research the Mountain West, and you'd find yourself looking at some really good skill players.
Is that something that not necessarily keep me up? It's like, all right, this is what we're going to face every week.
You know what? Honestly, no. I mean, the bottom line is we're in position to compete at a high level. I like our football team. It's just more of, okay, when we do run into a snag, how are we going to handle that? Mm-hmm. We got to prepare our guys. Our program is so used to winning, 8, 9 in a row, and then, something bad might happen and jumping back on that horse to recenter you for the playoffs. That's been beneficial for us. But now it's just, you got to stay in the fight for 12 weeks. This is not a deal where the conference title is going to be sewed up early. At least in my experience with the conference, this thing always came down to the wire.
Yeah.
Who's going to be playing in the championship, this, that, and the other thing.
That's exciting. Just hearing you talk about it's just different. Because I think that's for fans to get used to knowing full well, all right, we're going to play 3 non-conference games, our bye week, and then it's the playoff or the schedule for the conference, and then all that is just going to be different now going forward.
You guys will have to get used to me saying, hey, one at a time, compete and prove tough. Those things are boring, but that's what we're going to be talking about.
So Dave Richmond's here in studio. I know you were at the Summit League tournament. What was your basketball background?
In high school?
Yeah.
Coach Gazer and I were outstanding. We got beaten the sectional finals or the sectional every year I was involved.
Really?
Yeah,
Who was the thorn in the side? Who beat you guys?
Edgar beat us, which they were phenomenal. Greenwood lit us up. Gosh, and then you're going to I won't remember the other one, but no, high school basketball meant so much to me. That was kind of before the travel days and stuff.
Yeah.
And man, you valued those Friday nights, the pep band. And I enjoy so much watching Dave's team play this year. Defense, rebounding, timely scoring, sharing the ball.
Yeah.
Each and every night it could be somebody else. And that's something I think people that value team, can respect and get behind. And I thought it was high-level competition down there, and I'm so happy I made the choice to go for the 2 days I did.
Yeah, and there were more people that came, I thought, Saturday night into Sunday. It was a good crowd that was down there on
It was
Sunday
really
night.
good environment. They do a good job, and the conference is tough.
Last thing before we go, so tell people here what's ahead. Obviously, Pro Day is next week. You got the guys back. So what's the spring football schedule look like coming up
these
here?
next couple, 2-3 weeks are pretty jammed up with some really cool. We're going to have a BFPA practice on the 27th.
Okay.
We've invited. I'd be shocked for certain reasons I can't say on the air, but that there's not 150 to 200 people that are there.
Wow.
For that practice. OTA week next week, so we'll dive into some meetings, a team meeting to lay down, hey, this is how we practice for our new guys. This is what this means. This is what thud means. This is live. How do we take care of each other? And then the 24th is our first practice at 6 a.m. We'll be warming up on Tuesday and Thursdays, and then Fridays are where we'll open it up for coverage for you guys. Those are PM practices starting around 4 o'clock. And then Fridays are also a lot of recruiting. Now we start whittling it down to where 10 to 15 prospects are on campus, and we're getting closer to finishing. We got a lot of guys that are getting pretty warm as far as that goes as well.
So offers are already out. That's now, hey, it's yay or nay is what you're looking for here.
I'm going in to watch our next up list right now, today and tomorrow. We've got upwards of 40 offers that are active. Right. Some offers go away because we go partial and somebody offers full and they go, or, as time travels on, it is what it is. A kid might be a P4 guy, and then you got to move on. But most certainly we're collecting data right now to find out where are we in this thing, and then we'll start talking official visits in June.
Holy cow. And you mentioned how many guys enrolled early? 4? 5? How many?
4 enrolled early this year, and it
Two offensive linemen.
Two offensive linemen that are doing well. Earl Brown and Tucker are doing a great job. And Caden is doing a really good job at tight end. And then Braylon continues to impress us, with off-the-field activities. We got to get to football before. That's the one thing I want to do is I want to make sure I'm not putting too much pressure on our young people. Yeah. They got to go through the process, and then what we get out of them will be what we get.
It's great to see you. Thanks for coming by.
Thank you, guys.
Getting you ready for football here.
Congrats to men's basketball, and the women made us awfully proud with how hard they played.
They're not done either. We'll see what's going to happen with Jory's team there.
That's right.
Tim Polasek joining us here in studios. The Bison have a football schedule now for 2026. We come back. Dave Richmond is here in studio. We'll chat some Bison men's basketball as they will head to the NCAA tournament. It's coming up. We come back right after this.